years ago, many years ago now, going to my Sunday school teacher and saying, "What's the soul?" And they said, "Oh, the soul's the soul, the soul that God gave you, it's a soul." I thought, well, that won't really do. That doesn't make much sense. So some years later, I approached the minister and said, "Can you tell me what's the difference between spirit and soul?" And he said, "Well, yeah, spirit and soul, and soul spirit, and spirit soul, and it's spirit and this the soul." Well, that didn't help either. It wasn't until I started with the yogic philosophy and beginning to understand some of the ancient wisdoms, began to understand it all in a much bigger way. So again, I'd like to share with you just a very simple graphic way, another YouTube, to understand our own personal journey. And it might help a little bit to understand you and your soul. So here we have what again we call the Gita YouTube. But this time it's the personal YouTube. This YouTube is showing your life, or my life, from the moment of birth, when I involved myself in matter, coming down into physical form, which is the lowering of vibration, to the time as I live my life and gradually evolve or learn and grow and bring out from within some of the greater treasures until I lift my vibration back up to spirit. More about that in a few minutes. In our journey, coming down into matter, well, perhaps we should first say, why? Why bother coming to matter? Well, you see, on the other side, when we are non-physical beings, we can learn all sorts of things in theory. I always laughingly tell the classes, in theory I'm an Olympic swimmer and a concert pianist and, you know, an opera singer and everything else. But put me in the pool and I can dog paddle to the other side. I can play chopsticks, and that's about it. You see, theory and practice are two very, very, very different things. That's why we have to come into a physical life. We have to come into physicality to test out exactly if we can really do the things we think we can do, or act the ways we thought we could act. So, from time to time we involve ourselves in matter. And to involve ourselves in matter, it means coming from a very high vibration, which we call a spiritual vibration, or the vibration of spirit, coming down and lowering that vibration bit by bit until we become solid matter. Now, up until quite recently, that's quite a hard concept to understand, except that now the quantum physicists are talking about vibration all the time. So they've made it a little bit easier for us to show the spiritual truth. We start off at the top here as pure spirit, a very high, pure vibration. But in order for pure spirit to operate in matter, it's not possible, because the vibration of spirit and the vibration of matter are poles apart, literally. So, here how it goes. Spirit says, I want to be involved in matter in order to experience. So I will use an agent who's not at such a high vibration as me. I will send an agent down, which I call the soul. The soul has an octave lower vibration, so it's much closer to the material vibration. However, it's still somewhat higher than the world around us. So the soul engages what we call the personality. The personality is comprised of all of these lower levels. Now, every personality has various levels to it. And here I'm going to jump to the bottom for a moment because it may be easier to understand. We all know we have a physical body. We all know we have our creativity, our sexuality, and our ability to create things, whether it's a building or a sandwich. We all have our emotions, our will to satisfy, the things I want for me. And we often say in the spiritual work, these lower three levels are very much the I, me, my levels. If we move up a little bit, we all have the will to share. We all want to share our lives in some way or another, whether it's with the cat or the boyfriend or the girlfriend or whatever. We want to share, we want to be part of. And that's this level here where we're part of. And then we all have the mind, we all have a consciousness, we all have the ability to think, to grow, to understand, to question. And so we have these 5 levels to our being. They comprise our personality. Now, I'm sure you're all thinking by now that, yeah, those dots look familiar. Of course, they represent the chakras in the Eastern philosophy, or the energy centres. They act as transformers. They help to transform the energy down into matter or back up towards spirit. I'm sure you've all bought an appliance overseas somewhere and plugged it in and blown the fuse because you forgot it had to have a transformer. Or you've lugged around that heavy little black box on the end of a very fine cord in order to plug in your radio or lamp or something. That's a transformer. It transforms one level of vibratory energy into something else. And that's exactly what this is here. That line going down the centre is the connective line, or the life force line, if you like. It's the connective point which we generally see as going through the centre of our spine. And that's the energy flow that allows us to move our energy up or down. We all have that, or familiar with that saying, lift your game. You know, moved up a bit higher. In other words, stop thinking down here, start thinking up here. Change your vibration, change your patterns, so that we can move our vibratory pattern from top to bottom. There's a lot more we can talk about this, and I'm sure you're wondering about all of these pictures and things here. We'll talk about those in another session. But just in super simple terms, spirit is the highest energy. An octave lower is its representative, soul. An octave lower is the representative of soul, the personality. Spirit, soul and personality operate together, ideally, as a unity in this life. And the more we can acknowledge those 3 higher levels of our being and literally coordinate them together, then the better this life is going to flow. And that's really what the spiritual journey is all about. That's what a spiritual being having a human experience is really all about. And we'll talk more about that at another time.